We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Justin Not Bieber on Facebook says, so much for best laid plans. Justin was asking 2 weeks ago about a perfectly 10 by 10 foot room as his theater. We were talking about how he could set that up to make that work, but it's no longer the plan because he just found out he's going to be a father.
Congratulations,
so, congratulations, Justin. That's right. Congratulations, because that's very exciting and terrifying. And if your wife hasn't gone nuts yet, she's well on her way to going there. It's just a normal part of this process. You are also going to go slightly insane, and that's perfectly fine. Enjoy it, because you're going to look back on these days like 10 years from now. You're going to go, oh, remember when I used to make everybody wash their hands before they could touch the baby, and now he eats food off the floor? Yeah, okay. That's kind of the way these things go. It's fine, all right? So that room is not going to be a theater. It's going to be a nursery. Justin really wants a dedicated theater room, though. So there aren't any other rooms available in the house, and now that his family is growing, they're thinking they might have to move to a larger place in a couple of years anyways. So it kind of doesn't make sense to go through a bunch of hassle. So Justin wants to know if he thinks we think he should try to turn half of his 2-car garage into a dedicated theater. One car still needs to be parked, and he doesn't want to completely change the other stall because they might not be staying in this house for more than a few years. So would it make sense to construct a side wall and a back wall in the front of the garage, a back wall in front of the garage door to close in half of the garage? The tracks on the garage door would still need to be usable, so the walls wouldn't go all the way to the ceiling. Does that just eliminate any hope of good soundproofing? I mean, basically, you kind of have holes in your wall. You can't soundproof. You can't put like an electronic fence that says, sorry, you can't leave here sound waves. So yeah, you will no longer be soundproof. Now, if you took the second stall, the one furthest away from the house,
right?
The sound now has to travel through all the air to get. Yeah, I mean,
it's not as though putting up the partition wall is the same as having no wall at all. You'll block some of the sound.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be soundproof. You're going to hear stuff getting into the theater. You're going to hear stuff getting out of the theater, for sure.
So, yeah. So, I mean, if you put it further away, that's going to help. But, I'm telling you, that you guys are going to go crazy, and everybody's going to be like, the baby's sleeping.
He's got a much more important thing coming.
I know. We got this. I got this. But then you're going to be like, the baby's sleeping. And you're like, and you're going to be like, okay, take your shoes off. Walk around in your socks. We don't want to wake the baby up.
Once babies are asleep, they're asleep.
Hey, there is no reasoning with new parents. I was a new parent. I'm speaking. These are things I have done. By my third child, literally did not care what he did. Yeah. I was like, oh, he's eating food off the floor again.
Yeah, when they say don't wake a sleeping baby, you have to move them to wake them.
Well, it really depends on the child.
Doesn't really wake
my
up
first child, my first child woke up. He needed somebody to be near him when he slept most of the time. He never slept in the crib, hated it. He never slept in the car seat, hated that. He didn't even sit in a stroller. The only way we take him any place, we put him in those little baby Bjorn things, right? It's okay. Your baby's going to be your baby's going to be completely different, but you're going to be nuts for a while. But his second thing is this. Yeah. He lives in Bakersfield, and I have been to Bakersfield in the summer. So this next sentence that he has here, I can attest from personal experience, is absolutely true. He says, it's as hot as the surface of the sun for 9 months out of the year. That is true. That is a factual statement. Bakersfield is literally hell.
Man, you walk out. Never live there in that case.
You walk out. You walk out of the car like in summer, and you're just like, oh, it is a furnace. It's in the middle of the desert. There's nothing around. It's awful. Why? I mean, every time I go there, I'm like, why does anybody live here? Now, I'm sure there's very nice places. If you put a tree up or something like that, and it does immediately catch on fire, you got a chance at some shade and things will be nice. But it is hot, dude. It is straight up miserable there. So, anyways, when I was when I lived in California, there was a like a regional meet that always happened in Bakersfield over the summer, and it was awful. The garage insulated though, not the garage door, of course, which of course gets too hot to touch with the naked hand. Yeah. But it's not air conditioning. There's no window for an air conditioning unit, and just a vent for an air exhaust, which would end up inside this theater if you go for this idea. Would a portable air conditioning unit be too loud? No, air conditioning is definitely not an option. Those portable ones, the ones that are like little rollers and you put them in windows and stuff like that, those things are not quiet. They are. I have one. I live in Vancouver. I have the window open in winter, so I would die there. I would have to. It is very hot, dude. It's not even messing around. Saying it's hot is like saying after Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, fasting, that he was hungry. I mean, that's literally from the Bible. He was hungry. Like, yeah, you think 40 days, 40 nights, no food? And water? Yeah, he's hungry. He's probably a little bit thirsty too, just a touch. So yeah, it is hot. It's not really an option, and plus it's gonna be cranking, and it will be doing very much. If that's the only air vent exhaust for the garage, you can't be blocking that off from the other half of the garage, or that thing is gonna catch on fire. Yeah, I mean, don't do this. I'm sorry, but I mean, I know there are people who have converted their garage into a theater, and that can be done successfully. But in your case, where you're going to have to take it all down in 2 or 3 years anyway, like just don't do it. Just I'm sorry. And plus, it's not even it wouldn't work because you're literally having to air condition the entire garage because there's a space. Everything's open, right? Everything's open. No. And the garage doors are not exactly insulated usually. And it's just not going to work. So he says with everything that's going on, maybe a Smyth Realiser and some great headphones is actually the best solution, ? Smyth has recently mentioned the Realiser Exchange idea where people would be able to upload and sell different head and room measurements. Just isn't quite sure how this works, though. Do we interpret it as being able to apply your own head measurements to any room? That is any room measurement, so your own head measurements to any room measurement. Now, my understanding of this is that basically, because what you do is you sit in a theater, preferably your own, or or whatever, right? And you put the little things in your ear, little microphones in your ears, right? And then you play the whatever sounds it makes you play, and then it records that, so that you are experiencing, when you play stuff back through headphones, the same sort of sound that you're getting in that theater. Mm-hmm. So what they're posting is basically that file. But what that means is they need to post along with that their head measurements. So you can go, okay, well, my measurements are similar to this person's head, so maybe their measurements would work for me as well. But, it's not going to be exact. There's a lot of other factors involved, including the fact that it's not a room that you're familiar with. So, I mean, that's the idea, right? Am I wrong with that? Well, they're doing an interesting thing. They actually have a thing to explain this exchange, and they're talking about two different things. So one they call a PRIR, personalized room impulse response, and that is you put the microphones in your very own ears, sit in a room, and it measures what comes out of the speakers. Then they're having what they call a BRIR. I don't actually know what the B stands for. I'm sorry, I couldn't find what the B stands for. But the idea there is taking like one of those dummy heads or just a generic measurement, and they are talking about, they're like, the very best result you will ever get is you with the microphones in your ears sitting in the room and reproducing that. Okay, so full stop, that's the best result you'll ever get. But if you take one of these generic measurements of some other room, they can then process in the cloud on their back end. They can take your measurements. So you took your own head with the microphones in your ears in your room or any room, and apply what was done there to the one that was done with the dummy head in a different room. And it won't be quite as good as if you were personally in that second room. Yeah. But they can sort of fudge it together to make it pretty darn good. They also are like, you can take any of those generic measurements and apply your personalized measurements to it. So they actually mention, maybe I think that's coming up in his next question. But yeah, the basic idea is other people can take measurements either with their own head or with a dummy head, and then you can apply your personalized measurement to it. It's not quite as good as you being there, but it's close. So that's a cool idea. That's a cool way for you to get more and different rooms to listen in. Virtual rooms. I think that you are on the right track here. Yeah. Okay? I don't necessarily, I'm not saying that this is the perfect idea yet, but what is a very good idea is for you to tell your wife that you are going to sacrifice your home theater for the baby, and instead you're going to get some headphones. Maybe headphones for her as well, so you guys.
Well, yeah, because the A16 that they're bringing out works for 2 people simultaneously.
Yeah, so you can use this as an excuse, not only to say to show your wife how much you love her and your forthcoming child, and how much you're willing to sacrifice for that, and then use that as a bargaining chip for later when you get to the second house that you're talking about, and you're going to get a home theater out of it. You got to remember, you got to keep playing that coin. You got to keep that thing in play, and you parlay this into getting a really good set of headphones, and maybe the Smyth Realiser, maybe not, maybe just get good headphones. That'd be enough.
There's that too. Yeah.
And yeah, just getting good headphones is what you kind of want to do with this idea, because then you have good headphones. And you know what's great about good headphones? They're always good headphones. They never stop being good headphones just because you move to a different house. Whereas this theater that you may set up in your garage may not be good in your second house. Don't do that, by the way, because the speakers will melt, as will you. So I think it's the best idea for you to get good headphones and then parlay this into a home theater later on. So one issue is that he doesn't have his own theater to measure right now. So just recreating his old theater, which is how the Smyth Realiser is typically demonstrated, isn't really an option. But with the Exchange, maybe you could use a demo theater somewhere, you get his own head measurement, then buy different room measurements and get one that he really loves. And that is exactly what you should do. I think what Rob just described is using some of these generic measurements. I mean, if you end up with the Smyth Realiser, if you end up being able to spend that kind of money, which how much is it? It's like a lot. Right?
It's like what is it, $1,690, almost $1,700 just for that. That's not including the headphones.
That's not including the headphones. So this is a major purchase.
But when you consider the cost of an entire theater, then it's actually not.
It's
bad.
a lot less expensive. So I say. Now, it's going to sound manipulative, but it's true. What you do is you go in with the whole I'm giving up the theater thing. You introduce this, but you're willing to settle for some really high-quality cans that you just plug into your receiver. And that's your fallback option here.
More than this, again, whether they're describing this Exchange, they say what you need. So let's say you're getting one of these generic measurements from somebody else's room. So and they're actually hoping that like famous studios throughout the world will be part of this program in that, right? So that you can listen in I don't know, the Dolby Theater, or you can listen in the Chinese Man's Theater or something like that, right? But they say what you need are measurements that mimic the speaker placement of that other room. But you can actually take one measurement at a time. So you can literally take your own personalized measurement using one speaker. You'll just be moving it around, right? And they're actually like, all you actually need are the high frequencies, because that's the directional stuff. So they even say they're thinking about producing a kit that's basically just a tweeter and a stand. And you move that to all the positions you need.
So it's
and you only have to do
speaker.
Yeah, but you only have to do it once, right? Because you take a whole bunch of measurements with this tweeter at different positions. Then all of those are logged in on your account, and then you can just say, here are the ones that, line up with whatever room I'm downloading, and you can do it that way. So you don't actually need a complete, 11-speaker theater set up for you to measure. It's a little time-consuming, but you can do it one speaker at a time if you want to. So this all seems doable, right?
Right. So if he wants the realism of ribbon or planar speakers, but he'll now be using the headphones, should he be getting some planar headphones? His budget would be around $500. I hope that he realizes that it's got to be $500 on top of the $1,700.
Oh yes.
This thing.
Yeah, no, that's just for the headphones. $500.
He's got to realize that. But if it's really worth it, he can maybe go as high as $1,000. And Oppo's headphones are already for front runners, so he's looking for alternatives to those. So do we have any ideas? The first thing that came into mind for me was high-end Sennheisers, which are nice headphones. And the Audeze, which are the other planar ones that always come to my mind. And they have a bunch of different offerings, and they have dealers around. I know in Clearwater here there is a dealer for Audeze, and I've been meeting. They're like by appointment only. Can you come demo stuff? I'm like, are you guys serious for real? I have to make an appointment. Why don't you just what? Anyway, so I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But
if you want some good extension on both ends, both bass and treble extension, I do have to say they're LCD2s. This is Audeze. They're LCD2 planar magnetic headphones, which are $1,000, but they have very good extension on both the bass and the trebles. If you want that really full range experience, experience via headphones. They are a good choice. They are $1,000 though. So.
Yeah. And the Oppos, you've got the I can't even remember the model
PM1s, and you know what?
PM1s,
They've gotten rid of the PM2s. They're not on their website anymore. I know.
No.
PM1s are PM3s now. The PM2s were such a good deal, maybe too good a deal.
Oh, that's terrible. I was going to say the PM2s would be the way to go. I would not recommend the PM3s. They sound great. They do. And I'm wearing them right now. And they are kind of over-ear for me. I have particularly small ears, I guess, or whatever. Dainty, petite even. But they are not as comfortable. You're going to really want to get a comfortable set of cans that are all the way, around your ear and sit comfortably and very nicely and aren't putting too much pressure. These are just a little bit too tight for me, and I don't have a very
great for portable use.
An hour or so at a time,
yeah,
maybe 2 hours, but you're not going to want to sit there and watch TV with these things on your head.
I did want to mention, most often when people are thinking home, headphones to use at home, they are thinking full circumaural over the ear, but Shure's SE535 in-ear monitors, I mean, they're fantastic sounding, and they actually mimic the placement of the microphone that you'd use with the Smyth Realiser even better because it's actually in your ear. Right. I mean, I find them comfortable enough to wear for hours and hours and hours, and they're excellent sounding, and they're about $500, so I'll throw it out there, if you're willing to consider it. It is an option, in my opinion.
Right, and anything where you can get the thing that goes inside your ear, done by a doctor. You could always get that thing done, and that makes them extra comfortable.
However, with a baby, maybe you don't want things that are literally earplugs, very effective ones. Maybe you want something you can open back so you can hear when somebody's calling you. You know what? It's not the baby who's going to be ticked off. It's going to be your wife who's going to be ticked off.
Well, the baby won't be too happy either, but yeah.
No.
All right. Lastly, he asks, what would the 16-channel analog input and analog output be used for? And since I did not look this up, Rob will have to answer this question.
I'm not entirely sure, and I might get in a little bit of trouble by speculating on this, but I'm thinking the notion here would be you're incorporating the Smyth Realiser into your existing immersive audio system, and let's say you have a preamp. This is like a pass-through, right?
Right.
You'd pass the preamp signal through the Smyth Realiser. That way, when you want to use the Smyth Realiser, you could, and then it can pass via its analog outputs onto your amplifiers. I think that's kind of the idea that's going on here. You can also use this thing as a preamplifier because it has all of the Dolby Atmos and DTS-X and even Oro 3D decoding built into it. So it can be a preamp.
There you go.
Interestingly enough.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.